8 BYP with video number 2 on how to really thoroughly wreck a Drake TR3 or TR4. There's a real bad gotcha here in the receiver. The single best way to melt the final stage down in the TR3, and I think the 4, is that in the receiver, IF of all places, let that resistor open up. What that does is lets the transmit cathode voltage go down and receive, if I remember correctly. These stages in transmit and receive are reverse biased on the cathodes. In receive, the transmit cathodes are reverse biased about 150 volts, and in transmit, the receive cathodes are reverse biased. That guarantees complete cut off of the tubes. If that resistor opens, V6 and V7 form a multi-vibrator and oscillate to beat the band with burst about 100 or about a kc, and slams the final tubes rail to rail about 1.5 amps as best I could measure, and will melt them down. The other really weird thing is that audio rate at a high current and low frequency will slam the plate meter, or actually cathode meter, it's in the cathode, will slam it really hard and erase the damping magnet inside the meter. That one was an absolute nightmare to figure out, but I saw it happen just like that. That resistor opened up, the finals went slammed rail to rail, and I fixed that, and suddenly the plate meter didn't work, and it worked before. There's a damping magnet, a little donut shaped magnet in that meter for damping and for zero set, and it wipes out the magnetic field just like a degausser. Thing to avoid in the VFO circuit in a TR3 but not the TR4 is to get this transformer T4 out of tune, because when it does, this VFO produces a real nice second harmonic around 10 megahertz, and that is not good. Next, this one's tough to find. Kind of got to anticipate it from lack of use, but the key jack, where did it go? Oh, the key jack's up here, sorry. There's the key jack. From lack of use, this normally closed key jack will oxidize and corrode a bit and shut the transmitter off, or make the transmitter erratic. Next thing, these front panel lights. Here's dial light, up here, the sideband lights, these number 47s. If those open up, if for example this one opens up, that will result in way too high voltage on these 6 volt filament tubes. This is a 12 volt overall filament voltage, but it's divided in two through a series filament there and a series filament there with the bulbs in parallel. And if a bulb opens, that will unbalance a string and push the filaments of some of these tubes up to 8 volts, and that will destroy them. I found that out by thinking I'd be wise and thinking I'd pull V1 out of the radio to shut off the local oscillator to test the VFO. That was a bad idea, because that jacked up the heater voltages on these other tubes on the other side of the string to 8 volts. And 8 volts is around the voltage that the old tube testers used to rejuvenate the filaments, and they won't take that for long. They will burn up. In the radio, there's a very serious problem, especially in the TR3, of horrifyingly bad construction. And in the TR3, this is a TR4 here that I'm working on. And in the TR3, my camera lost focus. This resistor, hopefully you can see that, that resistor lead shorted against a 250 volt supply because a lead wire pressed up against some cloth braid they'd put around the component leads shorted and vaporized the lead connection from this transformer to that post. It's fairly easy to fix, but in this radio, in this TR4, it's awfully hard to see, but there's a piece of wire here with black insulation around it, and it is pressing against that lead and there's evidence of arcing on that resistor lead because the lead is burned black. The TR3 was absolutely plagued with leaking like that and short circuits against the chassis where the cloth braid insulated wire was pressed against the chassis and against these sharp terminals, these spring retention features on these transformer cans. I found about 6 places in the TR3 where there was arcing like that, and the answer is to separate the leads. If the wire is insulated by that cloth braid, move it away from the chassis, and realize that cloth braid is not electrical insulation, it's full of holes. So beware of that, because that can cause a lot of intermittent operation that's really, really hard to find.